Sometimes life scatters us like dandelion seeds, carried by winds we didn't choose, into soil we didn't prepare. But every seed carries purpose, every season carries meaning, and every experience, no matter how painful, has the potential to grow something in us. Welcome to the Dandelion Chronicles, where we examine the roots of our lives, uncover the patterns that shape us, and rediscover the value that was always there. I'm Imana, and this is where growth begins. Why was I created? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Some questions don't come from curiosity. They come from pain. They come from moments where life feels so heavy, so isolating, so confusing, that we begin to wonder if our existence even matters. And if you've ever looked at a dandelion, you might understand this in a way you didn't expect. Winter is a season where everything slows down. Trees stand bare, the ground is cold, and it's hard to believe anything could survive. Although we can't see them, dandelions are still there. Even in the harshest conditions, they remain. I remember being in my early teens and my mother and I were having what she would call a disagreement. But for me, it was more than that. I wanted a little autonomy, some breathing room, a little trust, maybe some attention. And she wanted total control of my whole life, it seemed. Okay. My words were measured. I didn't want to seem too passionate. She could take what I said the wrong way. But being unable to speak my truth felt stifling. Like your very being is suffocating. I had been isolated in my room for at least 2 years at this point. The room had become my world in a way. And sometimes I would try to escape it, even if just for a moment. I would walk into the living room, often where my mother was, often with company, trying to make them laugh. I would tell jokes, impersonate people, just trying to feel seen. She would laugh, be entertained, and send me right back to my room. I had no one to talk to, no real friends outside of school. I couldn't use the phone, so I had no connection to the outside world beyond school and work. And slowly, it started feeling like life in my little world was closing in on me. Like if the world swallowed me up, no one would really notice. Like I was a burden. And that day, during the argument, I had reached a breaking point. I remember feeling defeated, like I couldn't stay there one more day. Through blinding tears, I asked a question that came from the deepest part of me. Why did you have me? My answer was a slap across my face and a look that said, "How dare you ask me that?" That moment confused me even more because I wasn't being disrespectful. I was asking that question from pain. So I said, "I'm leaving." And she said, "Well, go." And I did. I walked toward the front door, terrified, fully expecting her to attack me from behind. But she didn't. She let me walk out, and for a moment, I felt free. I got about 2 blocks away, still afraid, still turning around, because something in me knew that she was coming after me. And then I heard her calling my name, running toward me. And I remember thinking, telling myself, run, don't stay. But my feet wouldn't move. My body felt so heavy, and my mind was racing. I was silently cursing myself out because I knew what was coming next. She caught up with me and began screaming at me, pulling me by my hair, hitting me all the way back home. To have the illusion of feeling free, even for a moment, was like escaping prison, only to be caught by the warden. And I knew my punishment would be swift and harsh. And it was. It didn't just hurt physically. That day, the question of why I even existed was still there. And when I began to carry that question, I didn't ask it just once. I spent years trying to answer it, trying to prove my worth, trying to earn love, trying to be seen. Like a dandelion seed, I had been planted in soil that I didn't choose. And that soil was wounded. But the seed was still whole. Even if everything around me told me otherwise. Fast forward a few decades, with 2 divorces behind me, still trying to understand love and myself. I was dating again, but not really, because I hadn't healed fully. I was in a deep, deep, deep depression. And I wasn't actively trying to end my life, but I wouldn't have been upset if I went to sleep and never woke up again. I had gone no contact with my mother for the umpteenth time. I hadn't seen my father for decades. My grandfather and the people who meant the most to me were all gone. I wasn't really getting along with my children. The relationships that I did have outside of family felt draining. I was working at a job that I despised, feeling overworked, underappreciated, and even targeted sometimes. I was having panic attacks. I had hit rock bottom. And this time, when I asked that question, it wasn't to my mother. It was to God. Why am I here? Because if my own mother didn't want me, how lovable was I? I felt like this could be the end of my life. And in some ways, it was. I really felt like I died that night. I cried myself to sleep with the hardest and deepest cry that I had ever had. I was exhausted. I felt empty. And I felt as if I had poured into everyone else until there was nothing left of me. I saw everyone, but no one saw me. I knew everyone, but no one really took the time to get to know me. And it felt like the harshest winter of my life. Very cold, wiltering, still, disappearing, lifeless. But dandelions don't die in the winter. although they appear to. The bright yellow does fade, the stem does weaken, and even the flower disappears. On the surface, everything about them looks lifeless. And if you didn't know better, you would think it was over. But beneath the surface, something is still alive: the root. Dandelions have deep, resilient roots. Roots that don't depend on the season to survive. So when winter comes, they don't fight it, they don't resist it, they lie dormant, they conserve, they endure. And when the conditions change, they don't have to be replanted. They rise again from what was already there. And that was what happened to me. That night, I thought something in me had died. And in a way, it did. The part of me that was constantly searching, constantly pouring, constantly trying to prove my worth, that part of me was exhausted. It did die. It had to die. Because not everything that ends is meant to destroy you. Some things end so the truer you can live. Because when I woke up that next morning, it felt like spring. Not because my circumstances had changed, but because something in me had. There was a quietness, a peace, a knowing. And it reminded me of this: weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm chapter 30, verse 5. That night was my winter, but morning came, and I realized something else. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercy never comes to an end. They are new every morning. Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. New, not recycled, not leftover, new. Just like spring, just like the dandelion blooms again, winter never had the final say. I also wanted to say that this story comes full circle for me because I feel like my daughter is feeling that same winter right now. I had tried so hard not to become my mom, not to have her feel everything that I felt. But in my determination of not having her feel like I feel, and also my determination of being the strong Black woman, I created in her a young me. And I want to apologize. I never want to minimize anything that I've done. My strength weakened her in a time where she needed my grace, my comfort, and most of all, my love. And although I thought I was showing her love in my own little ways, I wasn't listening to what she actually needed. And she may think it's too late. But that morning, I woke up from my winter. And one day, she will too. And hopefully, she will also see that I tried my best, but I made mistakes. And I'm off my apologies, asking for her forgiveness and asking for her grace. We may be stuck in a winter, but I do know spring is coming because healing always comes, and God always makes old things new. And our relationship of old in that winter is coming to an end. And I see a spring for us. I don't know how long it will take, but however long it takes, I will wait for her winter to end. I want you to know that I love you so very much, and my intent was never to hurt you. My intent was to show you that I was strong. But intentions sometimes don't always end up the way you envision. And I do deeply regret anything that I've done to hurt you. But I also hope that any lessons that you've learned from me, both positive and negative, will help you grow into the best person, the best being that you know how to be, including living out your purpose and being the best and most whole mother that you can be. There are people listening right now who are currently in winter. And if you're there, I want you to understand something. Just because it looks like everything has stopped does not mean everything is over. You may feel disconnected, exhausted, unseen, questioning your purpose. But what if this season is not your ending? What if it's your root system deepening? Something in you is being preserved so it can rise differently. Because just like a dandelion, you don't need perfect conditions to bloom. You just need life in your roots. So this week, I want you to reflect on this. What if your winter is not a punishment, but preparation? What if parts of you that feel like they're fading are simply making space for something truer to grow? Because the purpose of a dandelion is not to avoid the harsh seasons. It's to survive them and to bloom anyway. And maybe your purpose has never been about proving your worth, but uncovering what has always been there. Because beneath every wound, there is still a beautiful spirit. And no season, no person, no experience has the power to take that away. Until next time, keep growing. As you grow through this week, I want you to remember this. You may not have chosen the soil you were planted in. You may not have controlled the winds that carried you, but you do have the power to grow. So tend to your soil, choose your seeds wisely, and trust that even in the seasons that feel like winter, there is still life in your roots. Because you're not broken. You are a beautiful spirit learning how to heal a wounded soul. Until next time, search for the peace and the peace of God within you. This has been the Dandelion Chronicles, and I am Imana.